On April 21st, after many months of waiting, the biggest update dropped for a game I spent a lot of time playing. What game? Man, you know what game! New Another Crab's Treasure content! Hell yeah! It took a while, but we finally had the Year of the Crab update, which added a ton of new content. I'm talking new costumes, stowaways, a boss rush, the ability to refight bosses, a new boss, chapter select, the museum opened, and the biggest thing to be added, New Game Plus. It wasn't just gonna be a straightforward New Game Plus where they just make everything do more damage either. They were changing a lot. New moves to bosses, new items, new upgrades for the fork and stowaway capacities, New Game Plus exclusive stowaways, and even changing enemy encounters to make areas even harder. I was excited to experience everything new. Booting up the game after updating it, I was ready to jump straight into everything. Oh wait, I gotta beat Firth again before I can access New Game Plus. Let me just... Alright, cool. Officially unlocking New Game Plus, it was finally time to start the New Game Plus experience. Starting the game up, it was the same story I had come to experience many times over, except I was wearing a new outfit. See, before I started New Game Plus, I kinda did some of the boss rush stuff in my normal save file. I was dripped out. Looking fresh out of Bloodborne, I went to pay my taxes, but ended up getting my shell stolen anyways. Running after the toy shark, I jump into the water to chase after him. But before continuing, I decided I wanted my fishy pal chum to join me. Continuing on, I ran forward till I met the first polluted crab who really wanted to kill me. I skipped past him when the first big change jumps out at me. A bobbit sandworm pops out of the sand to try and eat me. As I skip past him, I make sure to avoid any X's on the ground since I wasn't trying to be eaten. Picking up the fork, I ran forward where they filled this area with more crabs and even seahorses, an enemy you don't normally see until after you leave the shallows. Getting past them quickly, I broke the first umami crystal and summoned the moon shell. Since I was max level already, I wasn't going to be leveling up at all, so I continued forward to speak to the snail. I was skipping through the dialogue since I assumed it would be the same, till I noticed he was saying something he never said before. He threatens me, and as I got ready to one-shot him like normal, a boss health bar appears above him. This was him, the new boss, the extremely rude snail. I had no idea what to expect, keeping my distance but failing to hit him. I go for a swing as he summons umami blasts, one of them hitting me, which stun locks me in place as all the other blasts drained my health. I was already almost dead to the snail. As I tried to circle around him and heal, he hit me with rollout, giving me my first death of the run. I hadn't made it past the intro and already died. Not only was New Game Plus harder, I was super rusty. Making it back to him, I equipped my adaptations, not realizing I could have had them sooner. Starting my rematch, I decided to throw a bobbit trap, but as I throw it out, he throws out his umami blast. I was stuck in place, and with his blast, he almost instantly took me out. Healing up, I throw out another trap. As I go for a charge attack, he gets free and jumps back. I run around trying to get hits in when I can. As he hides in his shell, I wait a second before charging an attack. But as my fork hits him, his shell explodes, breaking my shell in the process. I run around him, slowly building up his capsize meter until it fills up. Getting into position, I hit him with a charge attack, knocking him over and taking advantage to get a bunch of damage on him, bringing him really close to death. After he gets up, he uses a new move where he summons an umami shadow clone to attack me. Thankfully, with the maxed out tentacle, I killed his clone instantly, running back to him, avoiding his rollout, and killing him with the tentacle. First boss, done. I was gonna fight every boss in the game, so I made my way to the Royal Shell Splitter, dealing with some of the stronger enemies in the area on the way to him. Equipping phytoplankton, sinker, and a revive, I began my fight with the shell splitter. The fight wasn't too different. He was definitely stronger, but with no real changes to his moves, I beat him in my first try pretty quickly. Making my way to the next moonshell, I had to deal with tons of enemies that aren't normally here. The knights and the umbrella crabs were tough, but I made my way past them to safety. After healing up, I headed over to the little sand tower where there's a person you can save for an upgrade. Killing the crabs surrounding his tower, I was too late. He was already dead. New Game Plus was no joke. Death was everywhere. Leaving the poor guy's grave, I went around exploring, collecting crystals and discovering the new enemy type, umami enemies. These guys are alternate versions of the enemies I always dealt with, except they are made of pure umami. The only way to harm them was using shell spells and adaptation. After exploring some more, it was time to fight Nephro, and honestly, the fight wasn't really different. Besides him doing a lot of damage, there wasn't any new moves to worry about, and I beat him pretty quickly on my first try. From Nephro, I made my way to Queen Magista, talking to her, grabbing the hook, and heading to the moon snail's domain, where I almost get killed by 2 fish on the way there. Once inside, I made my way through. Dealing with the stronger enemies in the area, I decided to see if there was anything to pick up in this spot where you would normally find a heart kelp sprout. Only seeing a sniper, I barely missed the landing, falling down into the most hilariously trapped platform I've ever seen. I'm just gonna let the clip speak for itself. I made my way back up to the sniper, killing him and getting nothing as I continued on, grabbing the crystals in the area and reaching the polluted platoon Pathfinder. This time around, he had 2 little buddies with him who could do absolutely nothing to the power of my tentacle as I shoved it up the 3 of them's little tight yeah. With that done, I spoke to the moon snail, getting the shelleport and seeing this new option, craft sigils. These 5 sigils were new game plus exclusive stowaways, all with insane buffs and a big debuff to balance them out, except for the sickle sigil, a purely masochistic sigil where you take double damage, and keep in mind, it works while naked. I might have to do something with this. Anyways, continuing on, I went back to the shallows, running around and picking up any collectibles I could before heading back into the polluted castle. Clearing the path through the heavily defended castle, I made it to Queen Magista, ready to face anything new she could throw at me. She was a heavy hitter this time around, and the worst part, instead of spitting up gunk, she spits up bleach, which shreds your shell. That with her heavy hits made my shells practically non-existent for the fight. Thankfully, with the power of my tentacle, I was able to beat her in my first try. Using the moon shell, I went back and got a sigil before moving forward, arriving at the reef's edge, which was different. Having to travel through it a bit differently than before, I picked up whatever I could, even getting my hands on a stainless relic. With nothing else to get for now, I reached New Carcinia, and this time around, the museum was open. Taking a quick stroll inside, I asked around for my shell, and Nemo was even able to upgrade my stowaway capacity even more, maxing it out at 12. After speaking to everyone and trash day happening, it was finally time to go get the map pieces. Talking to Pronathan, I was able to buy the rest of the upgrades I hadn't gotten from this save file before upgrading the fork even further beyond to level 6. Leaving New Carcinia, I made it to the sands between, ready to fight Padris. And well, he curled himself. Heading over to the sandworm infested area, it was way worse this time around, with stronger enemies and sandworms everywhere. Reaching the end where the Bobbit Trap adaptation was, I picked up Shark Tooth ++. I wasn't gonna be using it, but it was cool to know where it was. I headed to the expired grove, ready to see what has changed here. Running through the left side of the grove, I dealt with the new enemies in the forest, making it behind the waterfall and picking up whatever I could before landing into the battlefield of the diseased lichenthrope. When, what the hell? 2 life bars appeared? So because this boss is so easy, instead of fighting one of him, you have to fight 2 of him at the same time. Dealing with 2 times the amount of attacks and enemies definitely made the fight harder, but the tentacle adaptation allowed me to hurt the lycanthropes without having to be right next to them, giving me opportunity to damage them both as I focused on one at a time. In no time, I had beaten the 2 of them, getting a Bloodstar limb from them before I made my way back to explore more of the grove. Picking up all the things I could in the area, I headed deeper into the grove, getting the next moon shell and clearing out all the enemies in the area. I decided to jump behind the waterfall to face the next boss, the curdled carbonara connoisseur. This time around, he had 2 archers with him, and he did way more damage, killing me 4 times since the archers forced me to dodge awkwardly and he would hit me. On my 5th try against him, I cleared the archers first before going ham on him with the tentacle, knocking him over and being able to do tons of damage before he could fight back. Finishing him off, I was gonna head backwards to fight the consortium, the boss whose ability I've been using the whole run so far. Running back through the grove into the secret entrance, I made my way to the consortium's arena. The consortium wasn't too different this time around, but this time his cage had more rope holding him together, so I had more targets to destroy. Losing my first attempt after almost winning, I lost 2 more times, when on my 4th attempt, something insane happened. While fighting him, he ended up above me, crushing me in the process. But I revived with my crab stowaway, keeping me under him. As I continued to swing at him, I started to fall through the ground, dropping me until I was in some sort of deep underground Fanta orange world. What the hell is going on? This game never ceases to impress me. I tried wandering around, but ended up falling over and over until I died. After coming back from that, I locked in, and rope after rope, I brought his life down until I beat him, getting the shortcut at Floatsome Vale, heading through to grab the moonshell, and warping back to the grove. I platformed my way through the area, picking up whatever items were in my path, and quickly, I arrived at the next boss, Takia, who I beat in my first try. He really wasn't tough at all. It was time to head to Topoda, going through the path, picking up a stainless relic on the way. Curdled Village was nothing too crazy. I killed every crab here and continued on the path to Topoda, where I picked up a blood star limb. Finally, it was time to fight the umami master. This fight was really interesting. Topoda wasn't only fast and strong, he now had an umami JoJo stand that would copy his attacks, catching me off guard on my attempt and killing me. After a couple tries, I swapped to the bobbit trap adaptation to catch Topoda in place, allowing me to get a bunch of hits in with my tentacle. Finally reaching his second phase, dodging and surviving his ultimate attack, and putting on as much pressure as I could to beat him before he could kill me. Finally, I had the mantis punch again and unlocked access to the boss rush. I headed to the moon snail, buying another sigil, and decided to go back to the sands between to collect things now that I had the mantis punch. I went around and collected whatever I could at this point: shark eggs, stowaways, stainless relics, and crystals. Once I had gotten everything I could, I made my way to Floatsome to pick up the final map piece. I decided to go through the main entrance even though I already had the moonshell inside Floatsome, since I wanted to deal with the mini boss fight with Inkerton. Running up on him, he did some good damage on me, but I showed him why no one messes with a crab on New Game Plus. Starting the trek through the swamp, I get caught by a bobbit sandworm, immediately losing my shell before I could even get past the entrance. This area was gonna be an annoying one. They riddled the area with strong enemies everywhere, and with the poison covering the entire place, it didn't make it any easier as I made my way forward, dealing with each enemy in my way. As I collected things throughout Floatsome, I made it around here where I decided to jump down and break this crystal, fully experiencing once again Aggro Crab's twisted New Game Plus design of putting bobbit sandworms everywhere. As I jump down, a sandworm catches me and breaks my shell, throwing me into the poison and getting me gunked. As I ran back to break the crystal, more sandworms pop out to attack me in the process, as I quickly made my way out of there. If they had like a bobbit sandworm slider for this update, then they turned that thing up to the max. I made my way over it, and using some awkward platforming, I skipped the ceviche sisters to grab the map piece real quick, jumping down and grabbing a stainless relic before starting the fight with the scuttling sludge steamroller. Trying my best to get rid of the big fellas at his side, I take down one before getting extremely low on HP, and with no heart kelp pods, I had only one idea I could think of: run and let Chum do everything. As I sat up here and let my buddy go to work, I didn't notice that I was still able to get poisoned as my gunk meter filled and my health began draining further. I was sure I was dead. Luckily, my gunk status left as I had a sliver of health left. Making sure I played it safe and didn't get gunked again, Chum saved me here and defeated the steamroller for me. Now I was gonna make my way back, collecting stuff I missed and heading over to the ceviche sisters to take care of them once and for all. Arriving in their domain, this time around the twin sisters were triplets. With their third sister coming home from vacation, I now had more gunfire to deal with. My first attempt went horribly, but I jumped straight into the second try, getting rid of the first sister, then second, and finally
Falcon Punch!
the last sister. Since I already had the map piece, I went straight to the shipping port moonshell and went back to town to put the map pieces together. It was now time to do my least favorite area of the game, the factory. And honestly, I skipped it. I didn't want to deal with it, and I wanted to just go straight to Volte. Reaching her fight, I was curious what they had changed, and it wasn't much, but it was enough to trip me up a couple times. See, once Volte starts switching between the electrical equipment, this time around, she fakes you out, pretending to plug herself into one thing before moving to another item. She got me real good the first time around, but after learning her trick, the fight was pretty much the same, beating Volte in no time and getting the electrocute adaptation once again. I made it to the mouth of the drain, went back to get another fork upgrade, and made my way to Roland. This fight was pretty cool. This time around, Roland had assistance from Inkerton, who would pop in and try to attack me while I was fighting Roland. While this didn't get in my way too much, and I still beat Roland on the first try, I thought it was a really nice change to the fight. After Krill knocks everyone into the deep pit and deals with his depression, I begin my journey through the unfathom. I was getting mollywopped by the enemies hidden in the dark, but I pressed on, lighting the way with glow sticks and the light bulb on my back. Making my way through the darkness, I arrived at the next boss, Petrock. This is where I learned that they changed equipping stowaways so that during boss fights, you wouldn't be able to change your setup or re-equip or revive. Dying a few times to him before I remembered about Wavebreaker, the ability that lets me pull myself towards an enemy to do damage. And that's when I started to spam it, finishing the fight pretty quickly after that. I skipped through the next area quickly, only fighting one laser crab on the way to Inkerton, getting to his fight super fast and finishing him off, with not much different with his fight besides that he spammed his red attacks way more. It was time for the final area, as I explored the place for any collectibles I could find, dealing with many enemies and especially bobbit sandworms as I made my way to Kamsha's throne room. I picked up lots of bread claws and stowaways, and even a bloodstar limb. They managed to change the entire area, so traveling through it was completely different, but I eventually found my way to the the king. He was extra aggressive, throwing out tons of bleach bubbles and smashing the ground over and over again, doing tons of damage. But his first phase wasn't too bad because it wasn't too different. His second phase on the other hand, see, once Kamcha is reborn, his fight is way different. The big issue is his shell is still attacking me even after he's out of it, throwing out attacks and smashing the ground constantly. This made his fight way harder since my shell was getting destroyed by the damage being done, and reborn Kamcha would ripple the ground at the same time as the shell would, causing really awkward and hard dodge times. The first phase was no trouble, but the second phase was problematic. Thankfully, on my third attempt, I was able to put on a lot of pressure, knocking Kamcha down multiple times, letting me get lots of hits in and making it easier to dodge the attacks from the leftover shell. Finally, the king was dead. Jumping down the toilet, I rolled down. It was time for Praia Dubia, who I beat in my first try. Thanks to the tentacle, I was able to deal with all the enemies from a distance, and since they recharge your umami when you kill them, I could just spam adaptations over and over again. The second phase was the same, dealing with it the same way I had done in the past, running all the way back to the entrance to avoid dealing with all the lasers in the area. Before fighting Firth though, I decided to go back and grab the last few things I could grab before dealing with the final boss. Finding some more stainless relics and stowaways, I purchased the last sigils, and with nothing else I wanted to search for, I went back and started the final battle. Honestly, compared to how they changed a lot of the other bosses, Firth was pretty much the same. With nothing too special about him, I ended up beating him in my first try. Breaking the perfect whirl, crushing Firth under a boot, and taking my shell back from Pronathan, I had finished New Game Plus.
You win!
Honestly, I really enjoyed the changes to New Game Plus. It did make the game harder, and the changes to some of the areas were really interesting, especially the Bleach City. But some of the bosses weren't changed too much, which was a little disappointing. And don't worry, I did go back and play through the factory afterwards. I just didn't want to do it right away. I'm glad they updated the game, and I'm thinking about a certain masochistic sigil that could make a real interesting video at some point. I have so much stuff I'm working on, so in the meantime, check out my other crap videos. I'm sure you'll like them. I'll see ya.